Ready? Yep. Are we live? Are we live? Hello, everybody. Can you see me? Wi-Fi goblins. Technical problems. Yeah, Jerry is in. He went to a different location. So he's in a different location, a nice studio, but it seems like they don't have very good Wi-Fi there. Or he's not in a good location inside of the studio. Technical schmechnical. How is everybody today? Are you all doing marvelously well? Yeah, sorry, Tom. Sorry, everybody, keeping you waiting 20 minutes. Udish, have you ever said you like anything about what we do? Hey, so just so you know, because Yudish leaves these messages saying that our giveaways are fake. Our giveaways are not fake. Sometimes when people win, they don't like their name to be revealed, and then other people will. It's out of respect. The last woman that won, and the one he says he can't find the winner, I can't find her name, but we ask everybody to always send us a photo. And as you know, we've put photos up from people who win in Malaysia. We've had Greece, Malaysia, Australia, England, America, Germany, France, Belgium, blah, blah, blah. We've shipped all over the world. Yes, everybody knows a giveaway is not fake, but, people like to troll. And I think also, there's a sadness that when people enter, they don't win. So they want to say, oh, it must have been fake because I didn't win. I mean, but honestly, can you just block Yudish? I'm sorry, Yudish, you're being blocked. Because all you ever do is leave these comments of negative stuff. You're just trolling us. And so you obviously are not interested in being part of this community. It's a wonderful community here of people that help each other. And we're really, really blessed that 99.9% of the people see, Sean says he's happened to. No, you don't like. You're always leaving messages of negative messages, and you said that I was a liar and that the giveaways were fake. So unfortunately, I don't believe that you like. If you say I'm lying and the giveaways are fake, that's just not fair. That's just not good. And I want to be surrounded. I want us to be really super positive, and look after each other here. And I feel like it's actually wonderful that we have this incredible community where only like 1 out of 100 people say stuff like that. Do you know how difficult it was for us that we had this amazing winner in Greece, and what did he win? He won Audient ID14, ASP 800, Lewitt drum mic package, and IK multimedia software. And I believe, sorry for those of you in Greece, I believe it's like a 65% surcharge in taxes. And so not only did we have to spend hundreds of dollars shipping it over there, we also spent about another $1,000 in taxes. And that happened in Brazil recently. Sorry, it wasn't Greece. It was Brazil it happened in. And Greece, we did have to pay a lot of taxes and stuff. But you know what? That is okay. Yes, that is okay, because that's why we do worldwide. And so, yeah, Malaysia, Greece, Brazil, a lot of countries that have high taxations. So I'm not saying all of them. We had Malta recently. Jerry, did you figure it out?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yay. Okay, good. So is he added in? He's there? Yay. I was just saying, we've been doing these giveaways all week, and there's this one guy who's been saying that they must be fake. It's because he hasn't won, and I'm just like, it's
nothing fake.
Nothing fake about our giveaways, no. And ultimately, yeah, we shipped to Brazil, and it was like super expensive. It was like 60+% in taxes, and Greece we had some issue getting stuff. But you know what? This is truly worldwide. While we were waiting for you, people were asking me, because I was speaking to a couple of people in my bad German.
Yeah.
I'm not very good. I speak a little bit of German. And so somebody said, are you German? I was like, no, I'm not German, but I'm English predominantly, then Irish, and Dutch. And my last name, my surname is Flemish. So I've got Belgian relatives, Dutch relatives. I have family in Greece. I'm married to a Polish girl, and my kids are American. So it's like, that's the new world. It really is. And isn't it wonderful that we've got this platform here and we can talk to people all over the world, and it's just all these barriers have gone down.
Absolutely.
And Tom says, I see Jerry. Yes, you do.
Yay. Yay. Sorry for the technical delay. I was having bandwidth issues here. I think they're sorted out now.
Oh, was it just the wrong Wi-Fi or something?
No, but I did reset my Wi-Fi connection, and that seemed to bring it back to life. So
okay, good.
There we go.
It's okay. It's like nothing ever runs smoothly, and that's kind of a metaphor for life.
Yeah, I don't want my metaphors to be showing up on your time, however. So
it's okay. We're blessed. We're very blessed to be able to do this. We're blessed that all these people are here, to help out. And so even though we're all running late, if you could please like and share, I'd really appreciate it. They're like, we don't want to like this.
Don't like being late.
So I apologize profusely for being late. And as once again, all of our giveaways are real, and Jerry's going to do real giveaways. And we're going to ask questions, and they're going to be some fun ones. And all of that kind of good stuff. And what? First of all, Jerry, enough about me, enough about the technical problems, enough about giveaways. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Warren. Thanks for asking.
Are you in Canada or Seattle? Where are you?
I'm in Canada.
You're in Canada.
Yeah. I'm at the studios of 010 here in Toronto. They were nice enough to lend me their space and their Wi-Fi to be able to talk to you guys. So it's kind of fun.
Fantastic.
Nice little change of locale.
That's beautiful. What I'm looking in the background. So wow, presumably they must do a lot of stuff to picture.
Yeah, they do. They do. They do a lot of multimedia. They do. In fact, they were the company that did all of the interactives for Kanye West's Yeezus tour. So all of his stage interactives that he did, they produced the technology that did all that, and they've worked with Kendrick Lamar and a number of other top artists here. And yeah, friends of mine, and let me into their space here to talk to you guys today.
That's pretty darn amazing. Pretty amazing. So if you would kindly like and share, that would help YouTube tell people that we're online, because half of the time they won't. With all their they've got a new one now that even if you subscribe, you have to hit the notifications bell to be told. And now there's another one that you have to go in and say whether you want the videos. You can hear all, sometimes, or whatever, but it defaults to nothing. So subscribing now is like they make it as difficult as possible. I was talking to the YouTube content creator manager, and I think they just want to control what people watch. I mean, they want to tell you what is like popular and use their algorithm as opposed to have you choose what you want to watch. I mean, it's the way of the world. It's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's everything. I mean, I love YouTube, don't get me wrong. It's amazing. But, they want the power, because that's how they make the money, isn't it? They can push towards videos that have high ad revenues and all this kind of stuff. So
that's it.
God bless them. But I do love it, and it brings us together, and our world has been made so much smaller. The fact that we have all these incredible people watching all over the world, it's just truly, truly wonderful. So you're doing well. You're in Canada. You're in Toronto.
Yeah, working on the edit for Volume 3, and of course the communication cycle for Volume 2. So
lovely.
So nonstop on my own Beatles Magical Mystery Tour. Yeah, lots happening, and no complaints from me.
Wonderful. So Volume 3, let's talk about that. What exactly, what period is Volume 3 that you're finishing up?
Volume 3 is going to cover late 66 through 1967. So that's going to get you from through Sgt. Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour. There was so much work that went on in those between those two albums and those sessions that it warranted its own volume, as opposed to a multi-year volume, as have been volumes 1 and 2. So 1967 was a very, very busy year for the Beatles.
Pretty amazing year, yeah. Pretty amazing year. What was the first single that came out in '67? I'm trying to think of the timeline now.
They did Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. Were
Penny
the
Lane.
singles.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing that as a kid. I remember hearing that as a kid and just being completely blown away. Obviously, as a little kid, Yellow Submarine, all of those kind of things would play at nursery school and infant. In '67, which is so magical.
Well, there's lots of cultural touchstones for it as well that I think makes it even more important in a lot of people's mind. The fact that it was, it preceded the Summer of Love, the huge hippie explosion in the U.S. in particular that was going on. The timing of it was pretty spot on, and they whatever you want to say, they captured the zeitgeist, I guess is the way to put it.
Wow. They certainly did. Now, it was Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields. Were they recording Magical Mystery Tour stuff around that period that got added in later? Or was it?
No, actually, they started doing work for Magical Mystery Tour on the day that Sgt. Pepper was released. So,
oh, wow.
So starting in June of 1967, they began work on Magical Mystery Tour, which would find its release later in the year. The first single, I believe, from that was "Baby You're a Rich Man."
Yeah,
was what came out. But they were solely involved with Pepper. The swap over, if there is any, was at the end of '66 when now Revolver's in the marketplace. And just a few days in the marketplace, I think, at the end of '66, now they're already beginning to work on When I'm 64. They're beginning to work on Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. So those are the first recordings they made, and those were in '66 that they had started those. And I believe actually they finished both Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever in '66. And finished When I'm 64 in early '67.
That's amazing. There's tons of questions coming here, and I'd like to. There's lots of really, really good ones. I'd like to sort of throw them at you here. First of all, it's like Gautier says, did you know for years that you were going to write this book and the manual, or did you just? I mean, basically, I think what they're saying is like, had you always mentally been writing this and making notes and just your whole life, and then you just was like you were exploding and just thought, I have to do this?
No. The short answer is no. Have I known for years I was going to write it? Yes, because I've been working on it for about a decade now.
Oh,
so
okay,
I've known for years that I was coming to this point, but this was never a master plan for my life to spend a decade working on these books. It was just a natural progression of trying to sort out the issues around their recordings. When I was, lucky enough to be able to do work in the studio and would get these questions come up, and in a lull in my activities, I was like, I thought, be interesting to sort those things out for people and for myself to start. And then it was like, yeah, if I'm going to get started on it, why not go down the rabbit hole and see if I can sort it all out? And I have a little bit of a knack, it turns out, for untying knots. So,
well, that's good. I'm gonna go through some of these questions fast and see. Probably a lot of these are folklore, and the answers are out there. But was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds really about LSD?
Purportedly, no. Purportedly, it was about a drawing that Julian Lennon brought home from school, and not about LSD. Did it, obviously deeply associated with LSD and deeply trippy. Although the recording itself is not that tripped out. You know, the recording itself is actually a pretty straightforward rock song with the accents of a Lowry organ and tambura. And other than that, it's a pretty straight ahead rock and roll song. So it's interesting to me that just with those two little decisions, those two little choices, it went from a rock song to something psychedelic and freaky and weird. And yeah, I love that about Strawberry Fields, or about Lucy in the Sky. I mean, love that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So Tony says, "Wow, no break from Sgt. Pepper's into Magical Mystery Tour."
Nope. Again, the day of release, they were in the studio working on Magical Mystery Tour. I think of them as one continuum of work. I believe Magical Mystery Tour is actually kind of Pepper on steroids, for lack of a better description. Everything that they were learning to do in the work that they did for Pepper ended up being exploited to its maximum when they hit Magical Mystery Tour, for better and for worse.
Wonderful. Baby You're a Rich Man, was that a jazz bass or a Rickenbacker?
Baby You're a Rich Man was still the Rickenbacker. The jazz didn't come into play until the White Album period in '68. They didn't get those instruments until '68.
Nice.
That includes the Fender 6.
Oh, Fender 6, right. I'm looking at all of these. So many questions here, and
you guys will stump me. So don't expect you won't.
Paul says, wasn't Sgt. Pepper's recorded after retired from touring? Yes. I think we all know that one. I'm booked for a day in Studio 2 in July. Are you talking, Fernando? Which Studio 2? I don't see which studio that might be. Sorry. My daughter's name is Lucy, by the way. But that's after a family. Lucinda.
Very nice.
Coincidental. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Here you go. This is a good question. If you were given the opportunity to take a Wayback Machine and record the Beatles, what year would you choose? Would it be that year?
Yeah, it would be 66 or 67. They knew enough about it. They knew enough technically about what they could do to really start to push the envelope. And that's both the Beatles as artists and the technical staff at EMI. They had developed artificial double tracking by then. They had integrated the vari-speed frequency control into the Studer machines to be able to do a lot with tape speed effects. They had been able to some degree to sync up 4 tracks. That opened up a lot of possibility, and it's just a flat out interesting creative period. So yeah, 66, 67 would be pretty much it for me.
Great. Was the primary reverb used on these Beatles recordings an EMI plate or the chambers? I suppose it's a combination.
It was a combination. It's an EMT 140 are the plates. There's 4 of them at EMI Studios. Wow. So those massive plates. I'm sure, Warren, you've seen them. They're
yes.
Big. They're like a 4x8 foot structure. So they used those in combination with the 3 echo chambers that were there at EMI.
Jerome says, "What size is Ringo's bass drum?"
In this era, it was 22 inches.
Yeah. I have the same kit sitting over there.
Did not kit me on that one.
Yeah, I had the same one over there. I knew that answer, but I was like, was it a 20 at the beginning, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 20 at the beginning. Yeah. There's so many great questions here. I might have to let you. I'm just going through these so slowly, but as much as I can. Oh, Tomorrow Never Knows. That's 67, isn't it? So
no, it's 66. That's
oh yeah, of course it is. What am I talking about? They're asking about Tomorrow Knows. It's definitely 66. I don't know why I said that, but it's interesting because Tomorrow Never Knows is probably more psychedelic than some of the more the 67 associated psychedelia. Yeah. You know, with tape loops and stuff. Oh, we've gone into frozen Jerry world again.
Am I frozen on you guys?
Oh, you're back, I think. You're big, you're bad, and you're back.
Yeah.
All right, so 60. Let's do some chronological order there, and we'll go back to some Q&A in a minute. So the beginning of the year started with Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane. Was it recorded the beginning of 67 or the end of 66? Oh, he's frozen again.
Oh gosh, darn it.
There you are.
Am I back? Sorry, guys. So Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever, and When I'm 64 were at the end of 1966.
We're losing you. Blah, 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 blah. The preamps are recorded at Abbey Road. Well, obviously, the 72s, the telecoms. Are you back? Not back.
Sorry.
God bless the technology. All right, let's do a giveaway, says Matt. Can you just hang up on it and we'll do the giveaway and then we'll come back in a minute, rather than keeping everybody here. So let's do some giveaways. Matt pointed us in that direction. So let's do some questions. All right, we've got some good ones here. Favorite Beatle, favorite song, favorite album, favorite cover, favorite Beatles conspiracy, favorite Beatles songs to reference women. That's a good one. Matt came up with this question, and his question is, what is your favorite Beatles song to reference? He says we're mixing, but I think in general, I have, for instance, for me, my favorite Beatles song for me, just to reference when I'm making music, is Hey Jude. Now, Hey Jude or Don't Let Me Down are my favorite Beatles songs. One obviously is a very famous John song, Don't Let Me Down. One's an obviously very famous, Paul song, Hey Jude. So ultimately, I use Hey Jude. Hey Jude specifically because of the vocal. The vocals are like absolutely amazing, and the vocal sound is incredible. So here's the question: what is the song we're doing? We're doing the giveaway here for your book. And which
Am
one
I
is
back
it?
with you?
Yes, you're back with me. The first or second book?
Guys. We're giving away Volume 2.
Volume 2. And which years are those?
That is from 1965 through 1966. So Help through Revolver.
Marvelous.
You have it right behind your shoulder.
Yep.
Right up on top.
Yep, there it is. Help for a Revolver. So the question I ask is, and the question I asked was, what's their favorite song, reference song? Not necessarily about mixing, production or anything, but the whole shebang. What is the one? For me, it's Hey Jude because of the vocal sound, because of that Hey Jude. And remember, I learned from you a couple of Q&As ago that was a 67 and not a 47.
Right.
So I'd actually gone out of my way my whole life to get 47s and 48s to be like the Beatles, but my favorite vocal sound was actually recorded on a 67.
Well, goes to show you.
Scott Chandler, hey Scott, says, I sang along with my dad's Hey Jude 45 RPM 2,000 times. Yep. Don't Let Me Down came up here. Paperback Writer, I'm the Walrus, Rubber Soul, Help, Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight. Yeah, that trilogy is incredible. David Gilden wants to know, what's the first time they used a Moog or a Moog? Oh, I think we lost him again.
Sorry.
Back in the USSR, Got to Get Me Back Into My Life, Let It Be, Revolution #9, Something, If I Need Help, So, if I needed someone, Live and Let Die. I suppose it's not a Beatles song, but it's close enough. Alex Wilson won. Alex, what was your song, Alex? What was Alex's song? What was Alex's song? What did you choose, Alex? Help, Fixing a Hole, Help. Penny Lane, there was a all people that come and go. We got a little Frozen Jerry, we're going to call him. Frozen Jerry. It's his what we're going to do. It's a new flavor from Jerry's. Walrus Jerry's. I know, Anita. Alex, what song did you choose? You won, but I wanted to know what is your song that inspires you? I'm the Walrus. Nice. That's a nice piece of production. Oh, She's So Heavy. That's a fantastic one for just giving us like, you know, oh, don't gotta. I see Jerry occasionally unfrozen, then frozen. It's like somewhat there, somewhat not there. But anyway, George wrote While My Guitar Gently Weeps, yes. When is Ben arriving? Which Ben? I think if they can move you somewhere where you can plug into the Ethernet and not use the Wi-Fi, that's probably the best situation. So can you... yeah, hey, Bulldog.
You guys a call back.
Are you listening? I mean, can you just hang up when it does this?
I don't know how to hang up.
Say again?
I don't know how to hang up one person.
Oh, on Jerry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Jerry, just call us back when you figured it out rather than do this freezing kind of thing. I'll just talk to everybody because you're frozen again. It's like the dungeon where you work and your Wi-Fi is awful. The sea of Skype. Oh, darling. Frozen Jerry, get it? Yeah, it's a new flavor. Ben and Jerry's, Frozen Jerry's. Vocoder, In My Life. How about audio only? Yeah, if we could get that, that would be great. That would be really good. But my guess is regardless of that, it seems like he's in a studio that doesn't have very good internet. And he's only on Wi-Fi and he's in a big place, so it's probably just weak. Needs to be somewhere. Sometimes it's like, you know, you got the good-looking background, but won't click the heart. Oh, I see. Engineers, Geoff, we're aware of the high recording quality has been demonstrated. We're aware of the high quality that has been demonstrated over the years. We're aware. I'm not sure what your question is. Sorry, Hermes. If you could ask that again, I'll go from it. Live from the internet. Yes, exactly. I was having a debate about not tracking live results and lack of emotion. I disagree with this. Were there times when the Beatles drums were tracked to scratch tracks? No, I mean, from what I can tell is that 99.9% of the time they tracked live and then carried on doing overdubs from that. Rev Bro Diddley says throw in some trivia. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of that stuff. I mean, most of the time the Beatles, because they never got past 8-track, they had to do stuff live because they had to keep this down to, you know, an area where you've only got a certain amount of tracks. So you've got to get as many drums as you can onto a couple of tracks, or obviously at the beginning on one track. You've got to get like vocals when it comes to backgrounds down onto one track. So even when they were working on an 8-track machine near the end, it was definitely about a limited. So bands were, you know, in all genres were really just performing live because that's really the only way of getting it. Jerry, you come on, but then you sort of freeze immediately. So.
Boy, guys.
It's a nice backdrop, but it would be better if you sort of went to, maybe if they have an office that has that's connected to Ethernet, that would be
Yeah.
better. Are people tracking musicians live these days, Stephen? Yes, they are. I mean, people are tracking stuff live. They're just they're tracking stuff live, but they're going. I think there's these days with modern rock, everything tends to be you know, layered. Like maybe they track live so the drummer can play to something, but then they're editing the drummer super hot in modern rock. The only bands that seem to track live, at least I work with, leaning towards that kind of a more rootsy sound, a more organic sound. Like the Frey albums I did, the first two were tracked entirely live and then fixed. You know, we'd go, oh, the bass needs to be replayed, and we'd punch in and do some bass fixes. We did actually get Fly Jan Rothschild in on the second Frey album to come in and replay the bass parts that their live bass pro had played, and Dan Rothschild brought it to a new level. So there's always that kind of thing. So bands do record somewhat live these days, but not in the way that we're talking about with the Beatles. You know, yeah, I like Jason Joshua. You know, he's done about 14 interviews, I think, or 10 interviews with Dave Pensado. So I think there's a lot of stuff. I mean, he's great, but he's definitely, you can definitely check out all this stuff over on Dave's channel. And I know that, you know, he came up under Dave, so it's probably, you know, I would definitely check out Dave's channel for Jason. What are my thoughts on Gretsch guitars? Zach, that is such a good question, because I have a great story. So one of our members is Russell Miller. Russell Miller is a front of house engineer for Johnny Marr. When I was a kid, I went to see the Smiths play in Jubilee Park in June 1984, and I got right to the front, and Morrissey was standing in front of me, and over to my right side, stage left, was Johnny Marr. I remember it vividly, and he was playing a Rickenbacker and a Gretsch Chet Atkins Country Gentleman. I went home, and the next day I went back into London, and I went to Notting Hill Record and Tape Exchange, and I bought a whole lot of albums. I remember buying All Things Must Pass. I also remember buying a Chet Atkins record because of Johnny Marr playing a Chet Atkins Gretsch. And I think that, and last night, Russell Miller was in town, and he messaged me on Facebook, and my wife and I went to go and see Johnny Marr playing at the Terragram Ballroom, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. It was so good. He was phenomenal. The sound was amazing. Big shout out to Russell Miller. So, and there's a natural progression with those kind of bands. Yes, Johnny Marr is amazing. What do I think of the Love album? I really enjoyed the Love album. I enjoyed the show. If you haven't seen the show, I would really, really, really highly suggest that you check it out. It's worth your time and money. It's beautifully done, really beautifully done. Have I visited India? No, I've never been to India. I'd love to go. That's interesting. I don't know. Most of the Beatles photos I've ever seen, a good percentage of those were with you know, had the headphones, you know, so I'm not entirely sure. So I don't really honestly know to be 100% certain. But maybe if we get Jerry back, he can let us know. Oh, thanks very much, Dave. Yeah, please like and share. Just picked up a Gretsch, and I love it more than my Les Paul. You know, Bob Marlette has a Gretsch Tennessean, Chet Atkins Tennessean. It's a phenomenal guitar. Thank you. I look forward. I've never been to Norway. I've been to Finland, but I've never been to Norway. Engineers were recording in the 60s. Do you think they were aware that 60 years later the sound we recognize for its high quality? Interesting. I think that when it comes to, like, when we talk about the Beatles recordings, when we talk about that and we talk about the technology, I think it's really important to remember that that these guys were incredibly talented. Geoff Emerick's incredibly talented. However, these were studios that were run by Abbey Road engineers that were really well maintained. They weren't actually as cutting edge as some of the American studios. If you've ever seen the Tom Dowd documentary, you'll know that Tom Dowd said when he came to England, he was actually surprised that many studios still had 4 tracks when America already had 8 tracks. And then the studios that should have had 16 were still on 8. So I think it's important to remember that, you know, Geoff Emerick and Norman Smith and all these great engineers that worked on these Beatles recordings were basically capturing incredible performances. And as you are talking about here and everybody's mentioning, the Beatles performed live in the studio and then they fixed and did overdubs. So I think that's really, really important to remember that that is a primary thing is to remember that there was interaction between musicians. So I think when people go back and listen to 60s recordings, and we sort of geek out about the Beatles stuff, remember it's a great studio with an amazing equipment, U47s, U48s, EMI design consoles with Telefunken, you know, mic pre's in them, a lot of German and Swiss equipment, Studers, you know, beautiful European and some American stuff, but primarily European recording equipment, you know. But of course, Altex. They had the American Altex, which they, I don't know if you can see it on my picture here. Let me check. Can you see it? Oh, yeah. So there, you see the cards. See that Altex there? That's like 436, 37, 38, and it's got the Beatles mod on it. So it's but their variable attack and release. You know, those pieces of equipment really, really shape the sound, absolutely. But I believe my humble opinion, and it's only my opinion, is that when you have great equipment, wonderful studios, well-maintained, incredibly professionally run studios like Abbey Road, like EMI Studios, when you have that with artists that come in and are performing with each other, being forced to most of the time, because of course, you know, they're on only 4 tracks initially, so they have to get performances. When you're in those kind of situations, you know, it creates a higher level of awareness. Now, a lot of the records that we don't like are not necessarily the digital records of now, but are the sort of beginning digital records when they were really, you know, really on a low 16-bit. They hadn't quite figured it out. You know, it's tough with a lot of that kind of stuff. But then go to listen to Hounds of Love by Kate Bush, which was a Fairlight record, and it's one of the best sounding albums ever. So it is definitely, to your point, in the ears of the engineer and the musician and the producer with the equipment. I believe that buying Chandler and Abbey Road gear and using the Wave stuff, like the J37, all of those things are amazing. They are absolutely amazing. But let's not ever, on our end as producers, engineers, and mixers, ever overestimate our role. Our role, a lot of the time, is to not screw it up, as Dave Jordan said. Our role very, very often is to make sure that we get a great result, capturing great performances and facilitating. I'm working with an Irish band at the moment that have so much creativity. I'm just trying to get out of the way of them to help it. Okay, so let's do another giveaway. A giveaway to where Jerry's book. And I'm going to look at Matt's questions. And Matt's other question was, oh, okay, favorite. Oh, I like this one. This is a really good one. Because I think when we talk about the Beatles and we talk about recording, we have to remember, like we're talking about, is that there's more to it than that. One of those things is lyrics. The Beatles had some of the best lyrics. Sometimes with John, it was really abstract. You know, no one, I think, is in my tree. I think I must be high or low. You know, it's completely abstract. Or you've got, like, you know, Penny Lane, there is a barber, and you know what I mean? And you've got like the very literal storytelling, allegorical side of Paul. Now, don't get me wrong. both John. There are in my life. There are places I remember in my life that some have changed. Some, you know, you've got Paul doing Penny Lane, which is very allegorical and talking about, you know, Liverpool, his experiences there. And then, of course, you've got John in My Life a few years before doing a very similar thing. So they both crossed over. They both were able to write very straight, I wouldn't say straightforward, but very direct songs, as well as also writing incredibly abstract things like John did with Tomorrow Never Knows. And, you know, and remember, you know, he recorded that with Paul. That's Paul playing drums. So the question is, what is your favorite Beatles lyric? And if it's just a line, write it down. What is your favorite Beatles lyric? You know, I'd love to know, what is your favorite Beatles lyric? And you can win a copy of Book 2, which is 65 to 66, Help Through Revolver. Yeah, mix of abstract and straightforward. I think allegorical, I think the storytelling kind of stuff. Hello, Goodbye, Let It Be. I see Jerry.
Yeah.
Are you in a better
guys.
Position?
Well, you know, I think we have radio frequency interference was what was going on, and we'll assume that was the issue for now. If it's not, then well, I beg everyone who's involved with this forgiveness for that bit of it. So. Well,
luckily we're all fans here, so we're able to talk about Beatles stuff. So what we're doing at the moment is we're talking about to win a second copy of your book. We're doing, what is your favorite Beatles lyric? And you know, some people are writing down the title, and other people are giving us actual lines. Oh, suddenly I'm not the half the man I used to be. That's a great line. Yeah. Oh yeah, but if you want money with people with minds that hate, all I can tell you, brothers, you have to wait. That's great. Fall in the hill, woke up, got out of bed. Another great one. Yeah. Take a sad song and make it better. Yeah. Lots of Hey Jude's here. She could steal but could not rob. I love that lyric. Thank you. That, Andrew, that is my favorite Paul lyric. She could steal but could not rob. Does anybody know why that's so good? It's so good because the act of stealing is like doing something behind somebody's back, but robbery you do directly. So it means that by saying she could steal but could not rob is such a good lyric, because it basically implies that the person is super devious. It's like, I love that. It's like, she could steal but she could not rob. Yeah, I've always loved that lyric. I remember being like 11 or 12 when I first heard that, and just thinking, wow, because I'd always read as a kid that, you know, that John was the clever lyricist, which of course it was. But then when I heard Paul sing that, I was like, yeah, but that's like freaking poetry. It's a Dylan Thomas kind of thing. Steal but not rob. Great lyric. Oh, who won? Adam Fox won. You won a signed copy of the Beatles recording reference manual by Jerry Hammack.
They want a hard drive.
Okay. Is it good?
I Need You. Cross Universe, yeah, Cross Universe, incredible lyrics. She said, amazing. I have to admit, it's getting better. Can't get much worse. Yeah, that's a great one. Somebody's saying, you know, what do they use to muffle Ringo's snare? Well, I mean, probably several things. I mean, a tea towel is famous on the toms, etc. And not everybody knows what a tea towel is. What do you Americans call tea towels?
I don't even know what that is.
A tea towel is like a hand towel in a kitchen, like cloth. We call it a tea towel. I'm getting shrugs here from Americans. Hand towel. Oh, hand towel. There you go. Somebody spoke and I went into dream. Yeah, what a. I think napkin is usually paper. If I go to a restaurant and I'm asking about a napkin, we'll usually call it a serviette where I come from. Anita calls it just a towel. Dish towel. Yeah, dish towel I've heard as well. Tell them to move to a static background. Yes, hand towel. Americans are savages and don't use tea towels. I don't know about that, but that's pretty funny. Washcloth, rags, dish towel equals tea towel. Okay, so if you want to get that Ringo drum sound, you can use dish towels. or hand towels, or washcloths, or kitchen cloths, kitchen towel, dish towel. I'm reading them all out here. For those of you that are not from the UK know what I mean. Ray Kennedy told me Geoff told him it was a pack of smokes with a specific number of cigarettes inside. Not kidding. Yeah, Stephen, that's one of the tricks. There's actually several. So you can take a packet of cigarettes and you put a bit of tape on the edge, and when you hit the snare like this, the cigarettes jump up, and then a nanosecond later they land, and it just dampens the snare very, very slightly. A packet of cigarettes, even full, is not that heavy. So I've done it and used it. So the other trick, which is the kind of the Motown one, was to do the same thing but with a wallet, which is a little heavier. And better still, the thing about a wallet is it's leather, which is skin, let's be honest, you know. So leather, you put leather on it, and then you tape here to the rim of the snare. And every time you hit the snare, the wallet flips up and then goes down again. So there's multiple things you can do. You can do the cigarette packets, you can do the wallet, but the one that Jack Douglas told me that they used with the Beatles, and we did as well, was a cigarette packet, but not with cigarettes in it. It was full of coins, which in those days would have been, you know, maybe definitely, you know, shillings, pound shillings, you know, that's pence and shillings. And what you would do is you take the cigarette packet and you'd fill it with coins. You know, you fill it with coins and then you tape that to the rim, and every time it goes down, it goes, and it actually adds an additional sound. See what I mean? Imagine a packet of cigarettes full of coins taped at the edge on the rim. So you got the rim of the snare and it's taped. Hit the snare, the packet of cigarette goes up and it goes, actually adds an additional sound to the snare. So that's another trick that they did. So between the wallet, which is predominantly like a Motown deadening trick, with the cigarette packet with the cigarettes in, which remember is not, you'll definitely empty the wallet of things that are going to fly out. Yes. But I personally like the cigarette full of, yeah, no, I asked him, Nick, to see if he can plug into an Ethernet. Cigarettes with tambourines might be like, cigarettes with coins might sound like a tambourine. It does, Tony. It adds a little bit, yeah. And distance mic, yeah. I mean, what you can do is you can experiment where the placement would be. I actually would put it underneath the 57. So if you've got a 57 coming in over the top of the snare, I put the packet there with the coins in it, and every time it plays, it goes up and down like this. And it adds a little extra, but it also shortens. It goes down and makes the sound, but when it hits and goes down, it also shortens the ring of the snare. Anita said she doesn't own a wallet and she quit smoking last night. Well, congratulations. Congratulations for quitting. And I think that that wallet trick was on me because the drummer took my cash. Sorry. Sorry about that. How to develop a bass sound like Paperback Writer. Paperback Writer, well, I don't know specifically. I'd have to go and listen to it now and double check. But remember, the Geoff Emerick trick on Taxman with the boom, 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 boom is an 18-inch speaker mic'd by another 18-inch speaker. And what we would do is we would take the speaker output and go into a DI box and then take a microphone cable out of the DI box into a mic pre. And that is how we would do it. So you take another 18-inch speaker and mic it up. Sometimes I'd take a 15-inch speaker and mic it up. But you know, but that is where I really kind of work. You know what I mean? That to me works really, really super well. It's absolutely fantastic. So miking a cab with another cab. You know, that's really what works fantastically for me. Okay, let's go into I'm trying to find the next questions. Excuse me a second here. And sorry about Jerry's internet. He went to a different studio, and it just seems like they haven't quite got it there. You quit a couple of months ago. Good for you. Would you use a beach towel and a kick drum? You know what? I've used all kinds of stuff with that. You know what I mean? 1, 2, 3. Yes. I think you're a mistaken Taxman bass with Paperback Writer and Rain. Yeah, I don't know. All I can do, I can only tell you what Geoff Emerick said. So I don't know. Maybe he made a mistake, but that's what he said with the Taxman bass sound. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting information. You know, somebody told me that they had read something in the Geoff Emerick book, and then I looked for it in the Geoff Emerick book and I couldn't find it. So I don't know. Lots of stuff gets, you know, sort of turned around a little bit. So I don't honestly know. And I'm sure sometimes with a lot of guys, like I remember reading something with Andy Johns, and he was talking about a Zeppelin drum sound, and he said he couldn't remember. You know, he said he couldn't remember how he did something. So it's not always, you know. I think that might happen when you're doing this a lot, is that you don't remember specific things that you may have done 40 years ago. But at the same time, if it's a technique, a really amazing technique that you can do, you may have used it on a different song. It might not be that song. You know what I mean? Yeah, Jolie. Well, okay.
Hey, Warren, I'm on data now.
Marvelous. So we can hear you.
I sent a video feed, so I hope you can see it.
We can hear you and see you, yes.
Yay!
Jerry is mobile.
Yeah.
Lots of people talking about quitting smoking.
Well, I'm glad I missed that.
Jerry's on the move. Somebody's asked about that Simon Phillips trick. So that Simon Phillips trick actually comes from the paint can comes from Eddie Kramer, and it's his cans. And he said that Eddie's cans were filled with sand. You can buy the cans, the blank ones, empty ones, blank ones, whatever you want to call it, from like Home Depot, fairly cheap. You can buy them relatively cheap, and then you can just fill them with sand. Now, somebody the other day said that they had to be filled with paint, you know, to make that happen. But then Eddie was the one that supposedly started the trick, and he uses sand in them. So I don't know. So here's another, again, one of those kind of situations where somebody will like debate you and say, no, you have to do it, you know, X, Y, and Z way. But then the guy that came up with the idea says, no, I don't do it like that. So I don't really know what, you know what I mean? I think as we get into this world, this rabbit hole of discussion, I think that even if we don't remember specific techniques, and the engineer himself doesn't, or herself doesn't remember the specific technique maybe on one song, if they've used that technique, it's still worth learning, you know, their technique, because it might work on a different song entirely. You know, did they use the Beatles use BA 6A compressor to get that bass sound? The BA 6A. No. Okay, so do you remember? Yeah, carry on.
I was just going to say the compressors that were in use were versions of the the RS-124s, which were the Altec compressors. So that was the go-to compressors, and then they would use the Fairchild, primarily the 660 limiter was in play, and those were their go-tos.
Right.
Chandler makes a killer 124.
Lovely. So, quick question: which song? I was always told it was Taxman, which is the speaker mic'd with the speaker. Was it Taxman? Dum, 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 dum.
No, that was the Rain paperback writer.
There you go.
Period that they were playing with that,
So
and I believe it
wrong.
was Rain. And what they did was they used
rain.
in the studio, they had playback monitors. There were these huge white units that they nicknamed the White Elephants. And what they were was they were Wharfdale 15-inch speakers with a Leak power amp. And so they basically just unplugged the Wharfdale from the Leak and plumbed it back in as a source, and used the speaker from the Wharfdale.
Right. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
I don't know if you've ever used that technique. I actually have used that technique, and it gives you this weird...
Oh no, I used it a lot. I use it a lot. I mean, in a lot of the Academy mixes I do, I give people that thing, and I also used to print it to tape. When I did Aerosmith record, it was 15 mic by 15, and it was all my low end. And you hit that to tape, it is so massive. It's like
it gives you these weird it gives you these weird subs that have no articulation to them, but man, they add something.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's a wonderful technique. But I found as I've been, somebody's saying, Broadway Joe says, what's a get? It's not get, it's a git, G-I-T, which is a derogatory term. But, excuse me, but it's a heavy Liverpool accent. So instead of curse Sir Walter Raleigh, he was such a stupid git. He just says it like, it's curse Sir Walter Raleigh, he was such a stupid git. It's just the Liverpool accent saying G-I-T, saying git. It's just a derogatory term. It's not as bad as saying many other words. But yeah.
Interestingly enough, on that little bit of trivia, I was talking to a friend of mine, Alex Kane, who did the Ringo, one of the Ringo or drum books, and he insists that it is get, G-E-T, and that it's particularly Liverpudlian to use that as opposed to git used in the South. So I don't know.
No, but I think we're saying the same thing. It's an enunciation.
Oh no, I'm sure we are.
It's an accent thing. In the South, it's a git, and where they came from, it's get. Yeah. And so it's like the reason why I was trying to qualify it is because most people know what a git is when they say something is a. So I was just trying to qualify it. It's like saying like Australians and English use a lot of the same swear words or curse words, but they have such a different accent that people think they're different words. But to them, it's, that would be, that would definitely be an enunciation thing, And I've heard, I know. Everybody's telling me,
Sorry.
What I was trying to say, yes, it is get because it's the way they pronounce it, but it's the same word as git. Maybe I have to say it really slowly. They are both the same word.
See, I understood that. I understood that perfectly.
No, I know. People are debating me. In the North, it's pronounced G-E-T. In the South, it's pronounced G-I-T. But it means the same thing. Okay, did that make sense? So even though it's get, it's the same. Oh, somebody says they get it. Thank you. Okay. So it's the same thing because everybody knows what a git is, but they didn't understand it's the same thing as get. God.
Tangents.
All right. So
back to question.
How were the acoustics mic'd? That's a loaded question.
Primarily, the acoustics, when they weren't the acoustic electric J160Es, they were mic'd with the U47 or U4748s. That was the go.
Wow.
That was the go-to. Now, later on, when the U67s came more into play, they were used for everything. But the go-to on acoustics was the Neumann U47, U48.
Right. And then when did they move to small diaphragms? What year did you say for the like KM series? Because didn't they use like 53s, 56s, etc.?
They used, well, 56s were there all along. They were primarily used in conjunction with the snare drum. Was their primary application. So they were in a suite of microphones used for the snare drum that included the D19C and a D12 on the kick. The KM56 was a mic that was primarily used in that way. However, later on when they were just grabbing whatever was hooked up, there were even vocals that were done with the KM56. In '68.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have both mics. I have 47, 48, and a 56. And the 56 on guitar is just so amazing. It just adds so much warmth.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something very early on when Norman Smith was recording them. He would use a U47 on one cabinet, let's say John's, and he would use a 56 on the other because they were virtually identical cabinets. And so to give just a slight change in coloration on the input, he chose a couple of different microphones. When they moved to dissimilar cabinets, then they were pretty much those through the U48s.
Right.
That reminded me during Smith's era and their initial recordings, they were using the KM56 as one of the microphones on the guitar cabinets.
Fantastic. Well, while we're on that, there's a good question from Rev Bro Dinley about the evolution of drum miking. Like, where did they start? And by the time they got to 67, how was Geoff miking by then?
Well, the start was with two microphones, and it was a kick microphone that was placed at about from the front of the drum kit. It was placed at about the 1 o'clock position, right, relative to the head, and then there was an overhead that was right over Ringo's shoulder, above his head.
Right.
And there was it was typically a D12 or a D20 was the kick drum, and then a D19C was the overhead, and that was their configuration up until Emerick took over, and then they started adding more and more and more D19Cs.
Right.
To the degree that they started to use premixer. It was an RS-144 premix unit that allowed them to sum 4 inputs, and it got to the point with Emerick where they were employing 4 microphones that were summed, as well as the 2 that he was normally allocated. So 6 microphones. Those summing boxes helped them a lot, and I don't know if you could sum to the sum boxes. That I don't know, but about 6 microphones was pretty much the Emerick standard, and that would then involve a over and an under snare microphone. Never a hi-hat microphone. The hi-hat picked up the bleed from the over microphone of the snare, and then kick drum and over toms and overhead, over or under toms and overhead.
I know. Did you watch the Clay Blair video? It's awesome. I didn't know the under toms technique until he did it, and I was just like, wow.
There's a lot of concussion that comes through using that. You get those deep Sgt. Pepper Day in the Life tones by approaching it that way.
Yeah, that was completely new to me, so I was really, really, really impressed and very excited by it there. Very, very exciting stuff. So, when does your book come out?
Well, the first 2 volumes are out there now, and I'm happy for anyone who chooses to pick them up. They're out on Amazon you could possibly imagine, and they're in some retailers like Barnes and Noble and that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
Just ask for them. Volume 3 will be out for Christmas. So late October, early November, for your holiday buying pleasure.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, so I want to. We were giving away 5 books. We've only done 3 so far, so we have 2 more to do.
Hey.
So, what question do you want to ask of the audience? Because I asked the first 3. What would you like to ask? A Beatle-related question, something like, as a Beatles fan, what is your favorite this? Have we done favorite song? We did favorite lyric. We haven't done favorite song. We did favorite lyric. We did. I did favorite song, like as in inspirational. For mixing or recording, and that was
a reference track.
Reference track, exactly. I don't know. Come up. I'll throw it on you. Come up with a Beatles question.
Let me think. Name your favorite Beatle track from a Beatles movie.
Oh, favorite Beatles track from a Beatles movie.
There you go. There you go. There's a little knowledge required in that one.
All right. So, did everybody get that favorite Beatles track from their favorite movie? Oh, what's your favorite movie?
Hard Day's Night.
Oh wow! When it was just
the epitome of the swinging '60s. Just a great piece of cinema, great writing, great songs, hard to beat. And then other than that, Let It Be drives me crazy. Let It Be is, for the kid in me that eventually became the guy that does this stuff. Let It Be was something. Just
wow.
I mean, it was sad and informative and. So just so many things.
My question is I know it sounds dumb, but is that actually available now?
No.
So it's still not available.
If you can find a bootleg, then you can get it. But no, they have not. They have not made it available yet. It doesn't show them in their best light, and as Apple has exerted its control. One of the aspects of that control is to always present the Beatles in the best light possible. It's not a flattering movie in any way. But it's good.
When I was a kid, I loved that movie because those of us that grew up in the UK will know at Christmas they used to show all the Beatles movies. They do Help, Hard Day's Night, Let It Be. And Magical Mystery Tour. And to be honest, it was fun. And of course, Yellow Submarine. Yellow Submarine was my favorite as a kid, and Help and Hard Days and Nights were my next ones when I was a little kid. But when I got older, I liked Let It Be. I really did, because I liked the grittiness of it. I remember the George line. What is it? Tell me what you want me to play. I'll play whatever you want me to play. And then there's and I'm paraphrasing. And then the other line where he gets bleeped and say, you wouldn't effing let me play on Hey Jude. So at that moment, I found out that George Harrison wasn't playing guitar on Hey Jude. I didn't know that. Things like that were just like, as a fan, when you're a little older, you love those tidbits. They don't really make me think any more or any less. They just make me feel like these are real human beings making music. I mean, it's interesting. I won't say who it is because I'll be throwing them under the bus, but somebody incredibly close to the Beatles I worked with a few years ago told me that George was definitely the silent Beatle, but had a massive temper. Would just explode sometimes. So, I think like any human being, sometimes you can be super calm and quiet, but when you do get mad, you get really mad. I think sometimes I could be accused of that. Ask my wife. But who knows? But when I hear that stuff, it doesn't make me think any less of them. It just makes me feel like, great, they're real people. They're real human beings. So I agree with you. I watched Let It Be as a teenager. I was just like, I love this band even more. But,
Yeah, it's just informative in all sorts of ways, and seeing their process, seeing them work. being just being exposed to that, if you weren't aware to the degree to which they worked on songs, it's just super informative that way, and just great to see them like sort things out and make mistakes and the humanity that is within that are exposed in that movie is, to me, is one of the best aspects of it.
And what's your favorite song in your favorite movie then?
Well, of my favorite movie, which is A Hard Day's Night, it would have to be Can't Buy Me Love.
That's a great song.
Yeah, just swings right along.
It's great to hear. It's great to hear like ones that are from the middle to earlier period, because I think it's very easy for all of us to focus on Revolver and above, and maybe even throwing Rubber Soul into it. But I agree. I mean, Help has some of my favorite Beatles songs on it. Revolver definitely has a lot, but Rubber Soul is a masterpiece for me. I think it might be my favorite Beatles album after, and this is a contentious point, Let It Be. Let It Be is my favorite album. I love the rawness. I love the I Dig a Pygmy by Charles Hawtrey and the Death Aids, phase 1 in which Doris gets her oats, and then goes into Two of Us. It's like so irreverent, and the fact that everybody cleared that is amazing. You've got kind of John being kind of irreverent and then going into this beautiful Two of Us. I mean, that's band. That's a band. That's what, you know what I mean? There's a little bit of this going on, Phase 1 in which Doris gets her oats.
Phil Spector was responsible for a lot of why that album felt so live. Get Back, for instance, is the performance of Get Back that we all love was done not in the live situation, but was done in the studio afterwards. It just sounds and feels like it's live. And it's actually a composite of 3 performances of Get Back. And,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
So Phil Spector, for all the mudslinging that he took in that era for the work that he did on Beatles tracks, actually, his hand on Let It Be was a very positive hand when push came to shove. Glenn Johns's version of it just wasn't popping, and Spector brought his magic, and clearly that was desirable, especially by Lennon, who went on to continue to work with Spector on a number of projects after the Beatles' demise.
I would. Is there any way that you can get hold of the mixes that Glenn did? Are they out there?
Yeah, they're out there.
They are.
Yeah, there's 2. He did 2 entire mixes of the album. I think I've got them both. I'll try to track them down and.
Are you publicly allowed to say this? I just throw you very heavily under the bus.
No. No, I've got them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Answers on a postcard to Jerry. Give us those mixes to here.
Yeah. That most likely is not going to happen. However,
I know, I'm just joking.
There are ears out there that would likely be hearing them.
Yep.
Won't say whose.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they exist at least.
They exist.
Allegedly.
And he was, he was missioned to make something out of nothing, and so. He had a hard job to do to carve anything out of those, hours and hours and hours of tape. What he did set the format for what would later be done by Spector, but at the time it just wasn't making the cut. It didn't in totality come across as a complete recording in the way that the Beatles expected that their recordings would sound like.
Wow, fantastic. Well, that's really, really cool. So do we get a winner, Matt? I wasn't paying attention to the thing. Did we find a winner? And who was the winner? And what was their favorite song? From what movie? I wasn't looking at the questions there because we went on a little discussion there. Are you familiar with Epiphone Texan guitar? Paul's used it on yesterday. I'm not familiar with that, but I know they go for an absolute fortune, and they were quite inexpensive. So it's always a little bit of a tough one when, you know, I'm not familiar with it personally. I know that Gautier won. Hey, Help. Was it Help from Help?
Didn't we have Help from Help already?
Say it again.
I was wondering, didn't we already have a winner with Help from Help?
Yeah, Help from Help. Well, he says Help, but maybe I don't know if he means the song Help from the movie Help or another song from Help. That's what I'm trying to find out. Congrats. So, Gautier, was it the song Help from the movie Help? Pepper is good in mono. Yes, he says. Oh, yeah. I mean, isn't that weird weird is the wrong word. Isn't that an interesting experience to go back to Help after you know what he's singing about and listen to the lyrics and then listen to just how upbeat the song. Help me if you're down, if you're ever feeling down, bow, bow. It's so like, oh, sort of peppy and happy. And then you listen to the lyrics, you're like, wow, this guy is not happy. This guy is in a lot of pain, but it's all just like, help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please? And it's all like beautiful harmonies and wow.
Yeah, and it should have been a Johnny Ray song, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, I have to go soon because I've got to go and make an album. And I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking to myself, we did promise 5 giveaways. We've only done 4. So hit us with the last one. I'm going to throw you under it. Give us one more question you'd like to ask of our audience.
One more question to ask of the audience. Let's see. Name both the song and the bass that you like best from McCartney in a Beatles song.
Name or what, sorry?
Both name a song and then tell me what bass he was using to record that song. Well, wow. Early it's pretty easy. But
okay. See. So name a song and then tell. Okay, so any song.
Name a song you love. Name a song you love, and tell me what bass he was playing.
Right, but can you see the questions? Because you're going to have to choose the winner. Because Matt's not going to know the answers.
I can't see
okay, then we can't do that one, guys. Sorry. Jerry would have to know whether it's right or not.
Well, yeah. then. Well,
sorry, guys and girls. Yeah, and a lot of people are saying, I have no idea. Michael LeBrun did say Rain Rickenbacker. Is that true?
That's true.
Okay. She Loves You, Hofner. Love Me Do, Hofner. True. Come Together. Vox. Come Together, Vox.
No.
Somebody wrote 4-string bass. Help. There you go. Yeah, unfortunately, he cannot see the chat, so he can't choose it. So we need something that's personal to them, something that they absolutely love.
Then the Beatles song, since we were just talking about Help.
Yeah.
The Beatles song when you're sad that you turn to. Your saddest Beatles song.
Your saddest Beatles song.
Your saddest Beatles song, because let's face it, even when you're sad, a Beatles song will make it better.
Okay, good question. So I'll rephrase that for everybody. Jerry is asking, when you're sad, when you're feeling down, what is the Beatles song? What is the Beatles song that makes you happy?
There you go. Much better.
Staying Alive. Michelle came up. Michelle that's a rainy day song. Michelle, my belle.
Hey, I've got a fun fact
Très
about,
bien ensemble.
if you care, in volume 2. Michelle is actually instrumentally a solo performance by McCartney.
Oh, he played everything on it?
Played everything on it. The vocals are the band, of course, but other than drums, it's all McCartney.
Oh, wow.
Acoustic guitars, bass, guitar solo.
She's Leaving Home. It's another rainy day song. That's a good one. Don't Let Me Down. One of my favorites. Something. Birthday. That was a good one. Birthday. I would like you to dance. Birthday. Take a chance. Rocky Raccoon. Sorry for accidentally naming an ELO song. The Henaharo Garay one. What was your song? Benaharo.
Across the Universe?
What was his song or her song? I'm sorry, I didn't see. I want to see what the song was. What was there? What was the song that you listened to when you were sad? Oh, Because. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, lots of Don't Let Me Downs. I'm glad there's so many people. I mean, it is interesting that the Word, that was a good one. A lot of people gravitate towards Don't Let Me Down and Hey Jude. Those two, I think, are two of my favorite Beatles songs. It might be my two favorite. And I think to me, they do show the archetypal. Like Hey Jude is a warm, encompassing, feel-good Paul song, which is sort of maybe encompasses at least how I feel about Paul. And Don't Let Me Down is raw and emotional. And that's what I feel like John ultimately brought to the Beatles, was that just kind of like stream of consciousness kind of way of writing, where Paul is a little bit more sophisticated. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like he's doing jazz chords all over the place. I just mean he brought, well, you know, because he had that Rodgers and Hammerstein kind of thing about him, didn't he? Well, you know, give my regards to Broad Street's kind of got that. You can tell he's got that in him, where John, you know, was the teddy boy in the band. You know, he was the leather jacket kind of attitude. You know, he wasn't, but he basically was an orphan. I mean, he wasn't an orphan, but he was basically, because his aunt was bringing him up and his dad had left. So
I mean, I think of Paul musically as aspirational. That he was always looking to take things to the next level musically. And John at his core was a rock and roller, and he always reverted to that, even though he could hold his own with anything that McCartney was doing. When it came for Lennon to really express himself, it was frequently through that rock and roll outlet. Paul was always looking for that reference, either be it to show music or jazz or what have you, in the waltzes, ballads, and things like that. He was always pushing things musically in an experimental direction, which he continued to do in his solo career. You know, doing work under the Fireman moniker and re-recording Ram as Till or something or another. He did a whole re-recording of Ram with orchestra, like I think a year after it came out, Trilbury or something like that. So I mean, that's what I look at them essentially, and Don't Let Me Down is certainly a reflection of John's straightforward rock and roll nature. Great music.
Wonderful, absolutely amazing. Who am I recording? I am recording the Matthews with Bob Marlett, and I need to go there soon. So we have stuff to finish here. Thank you ever so much, everybody. You all rock. Sorry about the technical difficulties there with young Gerald. But he's, as you can see, he's flying through the mountains at the moment. You know, it's snowing in the background, and
we are in Canada.
He's in Canada, eh?
So thanks for your patience, guys, and sorry about all of the technical hiccups. We'll do better next time around.
So congratulations to everybody that won a copy of the book. Matt will be emailing you, and Jerry will be sending you a copy of the book. Of course, go and check out all the first two books he's done, Volume 1 and 2. Volume 3 is being completed as we speak. He's literally writing as we're talking. No, and that will be out when, Jerry? Have you got a rough idea?
Yeah, it'll be out. Probably around the 1st of November for the Christmas season.
Marvelous for the Christmas season. I'm sure we'll get back again before then and do some more of this.
I hope so.
And thank you everybody for following Produce Like a Crow. A crow? I like that. Okay, Produce Like a Crow. Thank you everybody. Thank you ever so much for everything that you have done here. This 200,000 subscriber week has been so huge. And it's interesting that, you know, we started off with somebody being very negative, leaving a negative comment. And the reality is like, that is so infrequent. It's so infrequent. It's like, you are of a community is absolutely incredible. Yeah. Caw. Produce like a crow. That's going to be my side business. But Andrew's going to run it. Though his is called Produce Like a Moustache. But that's a whole other discussion. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you, everybody. This has been an amazing week. And all have a marvelous, marvelous time recording and mixing. And I'll speak to you all again very soon. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks a lot, Warren. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.